If you're a retired tradesman, somewhere between 65 and 75. If you spent decades under open sky heat, welding steel, fixing what other people rely on, and you still believe that paying your dues means the system will hold when your body doesn't, I need you to stay with me, because I've seen what happens when that belief cracks. And it doesn't crack loudly. It happens quietly, in places that smell like antiseptic and stale coffee, where nobody looks you in the eye long enough to explain why your treatment suddenly isn't approved. Hank Steele Miller was 71. Phoenix, Arizona. 34 years welding rail beams under sun that doesn't forgive mistakes. Hands like carved leather. The kind of man who measured life in shifts, not speeches. He did everything right, paid in, showed up, took the better plan when the brochure said seamless care. I've watched too many good people punished for technicalities. And I wish I could tell you that's rare. It's not. 10:25 in the morning. Cardiology waiting room. Hard plastic chair that flexes just enough to remind you it isn't meant for comfort. The smell, sharp antiseptic, layered over burnt coffee that's been sitting too long. Through the window, desert light already turning white hot. And in his hand, a denial. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a line of text that said his heart infusion. Routine, scheduled, necessary, needed reauthorization. I've seen this more times than I'm comfortable admitting. And honestly, it still bothers me. He sat there reading it like maybe the words would rearrange if he blinked slower.
I gave them 34 years of my back and my eyes. I didn't miss payments. I didn't cut corners. They said seamless like it meant I wouldn't have to beg for something keeping my heart steady. And now I'm sitting here like I don't understand my own coverage. Like I'm a kid who filled out the wrong form. I did everything right, and I'm still here waiting to be told if I get to stay stable.
Nobody warns them. Nobody warns most people. Here's the part they don't put in bold print, especially not in 2026. When you're dual eligible, meaning you rely on both Medicare and Medicaid, when those two systems are supposed to coordinate like a clean handoff, there are seams, invisible seams, and when you switch plans, even to a better one, those seams can split open right at the worst time, especially in certain plans where prior authorizations don't carry over the way people expect. Infusions, specialty treatments, cardiac support, those often sit behind prior authorization walls that don't transfer cleanly. Hank didn't know that. Why would he? He thought seamless meant what it sounds like. A nurse called his name, then paused when she saw the paper in his hand. That hesitation, I've seen it before. It's the moment staff realizes the system has created a problem they don't control. There was a flicker of hope, micro relief. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe they'll push it through. Then the words came. We have to resubmit. That's when something shifts in a man like Hank. This is where most people get trapped. Not loud, not visible, but inside. It's a collapse of expectation. Retirement illusion. You think the fight is over. It isn't.
We'll try to expedite it, Mr. Miller. But we need approval again under the new plan.
Again. That word lands heavier than people realize. After 38 years helping dual-eligible families, So I can tell you again is where dignity starts to erode, because it means you're back at the beginning. Paperwork, waiting, explaining your own body to someone reading from a checklist. Hank nodded, didn't argue. That's the thing about men like him. They don't complain first. They absorb. But absorption has a cost. And sitting there, 10:25, plastic chair pressing into his spine, desert glare burning through the window. He started doing something I've seen before. He started shrinking his expectations, not because he wanted to, because the system taught him to. I wish I could tell you the system always works fairly, but that wouldn't be honest. He folded the paper once, then again, like if it got small enough, it wouldn't be real. And here's what most people miss. The medical issue isn't the only pressure. It's what comes next. The calls, the confusion, The moment you realize you don't fully understand your own insurance, loss of competence, that cuts deeper than pain. And as he sat there, he thought about his grandkids. Not in some poetic way, in a practical way. Baseball games, school pickups, promises he made about being around. That's where fear turns into something heavier, because it's not just about him anymore. And I've watched too many good people sit in that exact chair, thinking the same quiet thought. Don't let them see me like this. You ever felt that? By the time you've sat in enough waiting rooms, you start recognizing patterns before they fully form. Not because you're smarter than the system, but because you've been bruised by it enough times to see where it bends. Hank didn't have that yet. He still believed this was a delay, a hiccup, something administrative that would smooth itself out if he stayed patient. I wish patience solved this. I really do. A few days later, the call came, not from the cardiologist, from the plan. Different voice, different tone, less urgency, more procedure. They needed documentation, again, clinical notes, again, justification, again. I've watched too many good people punished for technicalities. And this is where it starts to feel personal, even when it isn't supposed to be. Hank sat at his kitchen table this time. Early afternoon heat pressing against the windows. Papers spread out like he was back on a job site, trying to measure something that didn't line up. He read the request twice. Then a third time, same language, different meaning now. This wasn't just a resubmission. This was a reset. And here's the part that still bothers me. Nobody explained that to him clearly. Your previously authorized infusion requires new prior approval under your current plan selection. Failure to obtain authorization may result in non-coverage. Failure to obtain, not denial yet, just a quiet threat dressed in neutral language. There was a small window of relief when his cardiologist's office said they'd handle it. We do this all the time. That's what they told him. And for a moment, his shoulders dropped. Just a little, micro relief. Then the setback came faster than he expected. The office called back. They needed him to sign additional forms, clarify plan details, confirm coordination. Coordination. That word sounds clean. It isn't. Because when Medicare and Medicaid don't sync perfectly, especially inside certain plans, you become the bridge, not them. And Hank wasn't built for paperwork battles. He was built for steel and heat and precision you could see with your eyes. Now he was trying to understand invisible rules. I've seen this more times than I'm comfortable admitting. And honestly, it still bothers me. A week passed, then another. No infusion. 10:25 came again. Same waiting room, same chair, same smell, same desert light pushing harder against the glass. Only difference this time was the weight in his chest wasn't just physical, it was anger.
They keep saying process, like it's something I'm supposed to respect, but my heart doesn't run on their process. I'm sitting here feeling weaker every week, and they're asking me for paperwork, like I'm applying for something extra. This isn't extra. This is what I already had, what I already paid for. And now I don't even know who decides if I get it back. That's the part that gets me. I used to be the guy people called when something broke. Now I'm sitting here feeling like I missed something simple, like I failed at something I was supposed to understand.
That's the shift. Recognition turning into outrage. And right around here, something else happens. Shame sneaks in behind the anger, because he started thinking about calling his daughter, not to complain, just to ask a question. But we both know what that means. Fear of becoming a burden doesn't announce itself. It disguises itself as hesitation. He didn't call. Instead, he went back to the papers. And this is the part nobody tells you. The real trap was already in place before he even walked into that room. And that's where everything flipped. He thought the problem was the infusion approval, but it wasn't. The problem was the plan itself. And nobody had told him that switching plans could quietly reset how his treatment gets approved. Different network rules, different authorization pathways, and a gap, small, technical, invisible, between what his old coverage handled automatically and what this one required manually. That gap, that's where people fall. I'm not here to give you financial advice. I just don't want you to lose coverage the way I watched too many lose it. If you're watching this right now, check your own plan transitions. Not tomorrow, not next week. Because what happened to Hank didn't start in that waiting room. It started the moment he trusted the word seamless without seeing the fine print underneath it. The third visit hit harder. 10:25 again. Same chair, but this time, no expectation left. Just endurance. The nurse avoided eye contact longer. That tells you everything.
I used to fix things. That was my whole life. If something broke, I knew where to start. Now I'm sitting here and I don't even know what's broken. Is it the plan? The approval? Something I missed? I feel like I'm the problem. Like I signed something I didn't fully understand, and now I'm paying for it. And I don't want my kids to see me like that. Confused, stuck, asking for help over something I should have handled.
Loss of competence? Right there, clear as day. And that's where the story could have ended. Another man quietly slipping through a technical crack. But it didn't. Because somewhere between frustration and exhaustion, someone finally pointed him toward SHIP, the State Health Insurance Assistance Program, where local counselors help you navigate Medicare for free. Now I need to be careful here. I've seen people walk into SHIP and still struggle to fix things. It depends on timing, the plan, and how far the issue has already gone. And that's where things started to change. Not fast, not clean, but real. And what came next? Most people never even hear about until it's too late. So let me ask you something. If the system told you everything was covered, and then slowly proved it wasn't, would you know where to turn before it cost you more than just time? SHIP doesn't look like much from the outside. No glossy branding, no promises of premium access, just a quiet office, usually tucked into a county building or a nonprofit hallway, where people who actually understand the coordination between Medicare and Medicaid sit across from folks like Hank and untangle things. After 38 years helping dual-eligible families, I can tell you, this is where stories either stall out or finally start moving again. Hank didn't walk in confident. He walked in tired, papers in a folder that had already been opened too many times, shoulders slightly forward, like he was bracing for another explanation he wouldn't fully understand. I've seen that posture. I've seen it too many times. The counselor, no fancy title, no rush in her voice, asked him to start from the beginning. Not the denial, not the waiting room, the plan switch. That's where the truth usually hides. And as they went through it line by line, something became clear. The plan he chose. It wasn't wrong. It just wasn't aligned with the kind of care he actually needed. His infusion, in that specific plan structure, fell into a category that required stricter authorization. Paperwork betrayal, that's what I call it. Because everything looks fine until you need it. There was a moment. Small, but important. Micro relief. The counselor said, "We can request a peer-to-peer review." Now, for most people, that phrase doesn't mean much. But in 2026, in this system, it can be the difference between waiting and moving. Doctor to doctor. Real conversation, not just forms. Hank nodded, but you could see it. He didn't fully trust it yet. I wish I could tell you the system always responds quickly to that, but that wouldn't be honest. Days passed. Then a call, not approval yet, but movement. The cardiologist was scheduled to speak directly with the plan's reviewing physician. That's when something shifted again. Not relief, not yet, but a return of agency. And a new option surfaced at the same time. Monthly SAP. Now, if you're watching this right now and you've never heard that term, you're not alone. It stands for Special Enrollment Period. Nobody warns most people. But for dual-eligible individuals, it means you're not locked into the wrong plan all year. You may be able to move, depending on your eligibility and timing. Adjust. Correct course. Hank didn't know that until now. And this is where I'll be honest with you. I've seen this part go both ways. I've seen approvals come through just in time, and I've seen them stall long enough to do damage. I've seen this more times than I'm comfortable admitting, and it still bothers me. A week later, 10:25 came again. Same waiting room, same chair, same antiseptic bite in the air, that stale coffee smell that never quite leaves. The desert outside already blazing like it had something to prove. But this time, Hank wasn't holding just a denial. He was holding two paths, and this is where everything changes or doesn't. Wait for approval or move.
I sat there thinking about all the years I told my kids, handle your business early. Don't wait for things to get worse. And here I was, waiting, hoping someone else would fix it. That didn't feel like me, but I was scared to move too. What if I made it worse again? What if I picked wrong twice?
That right there, that's the quiet battlefield most people never see. Not just the system, the self-doubt it creates. Because once you feel like you've made one wrong move, every next decision feels heavier. The peer-to-peer call happened the next day, and here's the part that still gets under my skin. The doctor agreed. The treatment was necessary, medically justified. No argument there, but approval still pending, because agreement doesn't always mean action in this system. And that's when the counselor said something that cut through everything. You don't have to stay here. Simple, direct, true. Monthly SAP opened the door to a stronger D-SNP plan, a dual-eligible special needs plan designed specifically to integrate Medicare and Medicaid, one better aligned with his treatment needs, one where the infusion pathway was smoother, not perfect, but workable. Now, switching plans midstream? That's not something people do lightly, and it shouldn't be. There's risk, timing, coordination gaps. I'm not here to sugarcoat that. But staying in the wrong structure carries its own cost. Hank made the decision quietly. No big speech. Just a signature, a date, a shift, and then waiting again. Shorter this time, but still waiting. In his case, the approval came through under the new plan faster than it had under the previous one. But I've seen situations where that doesn't happen at all. Not instant, not guaranteed, and not something I'd ever promise anyone. But in his situation, it moved. 10:25. Final time, same room, same chair, same desert light pushing through like it always does. Only difference now was what he was holding. Not a denial, a confirmation.
I didn't feel victorious. That's the truth. I felt steady again, like something got put back where it belonged. But I also felt something else. Anger, still. Because it shouldn't take this much to get back to where I already was. I'm grateful, yeah. But I'm not forgetting how close this got to slipping away.
That's the tone I trust. Not celebration, clarity. He got his infusion, stabilized. Life didn't become perfect, but it became manageable again. And here's the part people don't see unless they've lived it. Even now, every time he walks into that waiting room, his jaw tightens, because the body remembers what the system almost took. I wish I could tell you that feeling goes away. It doesn't. But what can change is how prepared you are the next time something shifts. If you're a night shift caregiver, dual-eligible senior, or anyone who's been doing everything right and still got that red letter, here's exactly what I would tell my own daughter if she was in your shoes right now. First, tie your awareness to your own version of that waiting room moment. The place, the time, the physical cue where you first felt something was off. Use that as your trigger to review your plan details immediately. In 2026, timing matters more than intention. The earlier you act, the more options stay open. The trade-off? It takes effort when you're already stressed. But waiting costs more. Second, don't rely on seamless as a guarantee. Bring your treatment specifics into every plan conversation. Ask how your exact care, infusions, specialists, medications moves through their system. Anchor that question to the moment you'd normally sit and wait. because clarity up front prevents confusion later. The trade-off? It feels uncomfortable to question, but silence is what the system counts on. Third, if something gets delayed, escalate to peer-to-peer faster than you think you should. Don't wait for multiple denials. Tie that action to the first sign of resistance. The first we need to resubmit. In this system, doctor-to-doctor conversations cut through layers that paperwork can't. The trade-off, it requires persistence, but it moves things forward. But this only works if your doctor is willing, and the plan allows that level of review, which isn't always the case. Fourth, know your SEP rights. Like you know your medication schedule. If your plan isn't aligned, you can move. Tie that awareness to your routine, monthly, not yearly. Because flexibility is one of the few advantages you still have. The trade-off, switching carries risk, but staying stuck carries certainty. The truth is, this system is complicated, sometimes unfair, and it does punish ordinary people for technical gaps they never saw coming. Nobody warned most people, and that still bothers me. But you're not walking into it blind anymore. If this feels close to home, don't wait for your own 10/25 moment to hit harder. Check your situation tonight. Ask the questions you've been putting off. You still have room to protect yourself and the people who count on you. You're not alone in this, not even close. I'm not a lawyer or financial advisor. This is based on what I saw work for thousands of real dual-eligible families over 38 years. Always verify your own situation with a local SHIP counselor or your state Medicaid office.